Today we present The Mysterious Papu Appears. A week would have passed since King Cold's defeat. On any given day on Earth, our warriors would be resting on a quiet day and Goku would be invited to give a class in the city of his same name. The Saiyan would accept since he had nothing to do but train. In that class, they would ask the Saiyan about time travel, to which Goku would not be sure what to say since it was something he did not see as possible. He said that only a mastermind could achieve time travel. The class would end and Goku would be about to leave, but he would be notified by Raditz, telling him that a strange machine had appeared in the sky of Capsule Corporation, having to get there quickly. Goku would fly from one second to the next, arriving in seconds at his house. Once there, that ship would descend to the ground where a hatch would open, revealing these two familiar but unknown figures, and Kitty. Quickly, these figures would look at the Saiyan raised on Earth, asking him to speak with him in a private place. Goku, not knowing what was happening, would accept as he looked at that ship, since it had the brand of the Capsule Corporation, but that ship was not his or his family's invention. The purple-haired boy would store the ship in a capsule. Goku would take the two individuals to a private place where they would begin to explain to Goku who they were. They would introduce themselves as Trunks and Ranch, sons of the Saiyans Raditz and Vegeta from the future, shocking Goku. Goku would affirm that they were slightly related to the Saiyans, and he would ask them how that was possible, how they traveled through time, and why they had done it. The Saiyan had more questions than answers. Trunks would begin to explain to Goku that they came to warn about the future. At this time, 3 years from now, on May the 12th at 10 in the morning, on a small island that is 9 kilometers from the southern capital, 3 powerful individuals will appear. They will be 3 terrible monsters that will eliminate every warrior on Earth. Those words would surprise Goku, who continued asking who they were. Ranch would tell him that those guys were super gifted androids created by the Red Patrol by their creator, Dr. Gero. Goku would remember that guy because he had previously read about him in a news story asking what had happened to his friends and him. Trunks would tell him that in 3 years he was gonna die from a strange heart disease, surprising Goku. Weeks later, those androids would appear and manage to fight the Earthlings. But then the third android, who had not shown any gesture, did something inhuman. That guy had become a Super Saiyan, surprising Goku even more. He asked how it was possible for a human to become a Super Saiyan. Trunks would continue, saying that it was not just that. That Super Saiyan was very powerful and muscular, seeming to have no limits. With each blow he became stronger. His power was so great that he had to bring it out, so he launched a powerful attack that almost eliminated the entire population in one attack. Thanks to the sacrifice of the Earthling warriors, they were able to deflect it by sacrificing their lives. Ranch would clench his fists, continuing to tell that it wasn't just that once. Those androids, thanks to the third Saiyan android, were able to defeat the Saiyans, expelling their power and eliminating each Saiyan warrior, as well as their parents. Even Piccolo, who had fused with his brother, was able to rival that being eliminated, and the Dragon Balls disappearing. They had grown up on that Earth with their master Gohan. He had taken them as a disciple and trained them, achieving the Super Saiyan. But despite that, they could not stand up to that monster. Not even Gohan, who had to sacrifice himself so that they could escape, could. Goku would remain silent, thinking about what he had heard in that horrible future. He couldn't believe it. But on the other hand, he would be excited about it, thinking about creating a medicine for his heart. But Trunks would take the medicine out of his bag for Goku, telling him that in the future, his mother Bulma had created that medicine. She was even the one who made the time machine, something that would not surprise Goku, since he always knew that his sister was much smarter than him. With that mission completed, Trunks would decide to go because they had no time to waste, and time works in a linear way, and if they stayed a day in the past, they would also go to the future, understanding that. But before leaving, Goku would give them a gift. He would search through his drawers, find his latest invention, and give it to Trunks. He would ask what it was, to which Goku would tell him that it was a very powerful one, telling him about the Mazuba, that technique that interested him so much as a child. He had learned this technique training with Kami-sama when he was a child, but he was always wary of depending on a simple vase with a seal. So he had improved the vase, making it more resistant and electronic. Even if it were to break, it would perform a flying sequence towards the sun. Finally, Goku would tell them that he could teach them that technique in a few minutes. Trunks and Ranch accepted that because if everything went well, they would be able to seal that powerful android Saiyan in the future. Goku would take them to Kami-sama's tower, asking Mr. Popo for the time room information that neither Trunks nor Ranch knew. They would enter. Goku would explain to them about that room and its rules, thus beginning the Masfubadoba training, where in weeks inside the room they would manage to learn and perfect it. They would leave, and without wasting time they would say goodbye to Goku, taking out their time machine there and returning to their future. Goku would ask Mr. Popo if Kami-sama had not arrived yet, to which Mr. Popo would tell him no. Goku would turn around and tell Tambourine to come out of hiding, to which Tambourine would come out of the temple of Kami-sama, who would thank Goku because now that he knows about the time room he will become stronger to eliminate him. The Saiyan raised on Earth would laugh, telling him that he expects that, warning him that in 3 years 3 powerful individuals would appear, so he expects Tambourine to become strong without understanding that. Goku would leave that place and begin to warn his friends about those enemies without revealing who those individuals were. Meanwhile, on Namek, 2 weeks had passed since Piccolo and Kami had arrived on the Green Planet. At first it was difficult for the two to enter the Namek village, more so for Piccolo because everyone could sense an evil ki in him, but thanks to the Great Patriarch they would manage to understand who they were. That Patriarch would read their minds and explain to those Nameks about their race and their demonic connection, asking them to stay for a few days until his descent to connect with his race, since the Patriarch could sense that he only had a few days left to live. Kami-sama and Piccolo would listen, Kami-sama beginning to understand more about his dragon family, getting to know Dende and improving his magical abilities, while Piccolo would get along well with the Namekian warriors, since they would see Piccolo as someone very strong and skilled thanks to the enormous power he had, training with Piccolo as well as with Nail. In the present, the Great Patriarch would leave his command to Mori, saying goodbye to everyone, especially Kami-sama and Piccolo, telling them that despite being different they were the same and that made them special, and the Great Patriarch disappeared. All the Nameks would be sad, even Piccolo would be a little discouraged because in those days, he was on his planet, he was able to reconnect with his race. After that, Piccolo and Kami-sama would say goodbye to the Namekes and they would return to their ship. It took them 2 weeks to reach Earth, where they would spend those 2 weeks together. Now, they were no longer the same, but they weren't different either. Piccolo told Kami that he had already understood what it was like to be a Namekian, but he would continue to remind him that he and his brother were demons. Kami would affirm, knowing that something had changed in Piccolo. He was no longer completely evil, but Su no longer had evil, something that would comfort the god of the earth. They would return to Earth, where Goku would tell them about the warriors of the future, exciting Piccolo about that and worrying Kami, deciding to use his newfound knowledge to improve the time room a little, Iryu Ake time room. And so everyone would start training in their own way, Goku looking for a way to surpass the Super Saiyan, trying it with a lesser Kaioken, but that was too much work for his body, so he would decide to look for other ways. Meanwhile, in Dr. Joe's lair, he would stop spying on the Z-Warriors, starting to create those super-gifted androids using Goku's modified tail that he had stolen to inject the Saiyan cells and DNA into a tall, thin young man. That subject who in the future would have an artificial version of the legendary Super Saiyan thanks to that modified tail. One day of training, Goku, knowing his son's potential, would train more with him, doing experiments with anger because he knew that that was the trigger for the Super Saiyan. And thanks to several trainings in which he would use anger, Gohan would unknowingly awaken the Super Saiyan Phase 2 for a few seconds. That would clear Goku's suspicions, because that meant that there was a way beyond Super Saiyan, thus beginning his training with his brother and other Saiyans. Vegeta, by spending more time in Capsule Corporation, would be seen by Bulma and helped starting their strange relationship, while one day Lanch would arrive at Capsule Corporation to look for Goku since she was already fed up with Rossi, reminding him that he was the one who got to Kameose, and now that Goku was very famous, he had to help her. Goku would let Lanch stay, and now with more reason, because he knew that she would be the mother of Ranch, knowing Raditz and Lanch. And so a year of training would pass where, thanks to Goku's intelligence, he would reach Super Saiyan Phase 2 with many complications, just like Gohan training these and surprising the other Saiyans who would follow in Goku's footsteps, reaching that form months later, while the Earthlings would become stronger and more resistant thanks to the increased gravity, managing to use 1000 GG, something surprising for them. Goku, seeing that, would tell them that they could become stronger, like him, if they trained with Kaiosama, wanting the Earthlings to go with that god, and thanks to Kami-sama, they would go to the other world, beginning their training to learn his techniques. Piccolo and Tamborin would train in their own way, using a new gravity machine from Goku, and entering the time room every 6 months that was available, because now Kami-sama had improved it so that the time limit would be 2 days every 6 months, Piccolo and Tamborin would train those years inside, and in this way 3 years of training would pass. And that's it for the video. If you like the theory, give me a like to continue it. Don't forget to comment so that YouTube recommends my channel. If you are interested in my theory content, you can see complete long-term theories links in the description. I remind you that it is not necessary to be a member of the channel, but thank you for joining anyway. And that would end this video. Goodbye.